scrutinies on the 13th of May 2021. Apologies, any apologies?
Yeah, just apologies from Councillor Tina Jones.
Okay, everybody else here?
Mabinock Gwynfor's obviously not here.
Mabon Ap Gwynfor. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Declarations of interest? No declarations of interest. Urgent matters agreed by the chair. There's no nothing agreed. Thank you. Item 4, minutes of the previous meeting. Just go through them for accuracy. So page 5, 6, 7, and 8. Any matters arising from that? No. Can we have a proposer and seconder what they're correct? Councillor Mervyn Parry and Anton Sun. Thank you. Ariane? Yeah. Everybody in agreement? Yeah, great. Thank you very much. There's a slight change around of numbers. So we're going straight on to agenda item 6 because the leader has to go to another meeting after, I believe. So agenda item 6. Can I call Mark Young, lead member? Hello? Okay, sorry.
I didn't have any translation there, Chair.
I think he was saying it was very echoey.
There's feedback with the Welsh, I think.
Yeah, sorry, we have got some technical issues in the chamber, so just bear with me for 1 minute. You're trying to afford one?
It's only 4. Okay, Chair, what about it?
Right, is that better? Yeah, Bob McGlory one. Yeah, sorry. Right, agenda item, start again. Number 6. It's Councillor Mark Young and Emlyn Jones. So, Mark, would you like to kick off, please?
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, committee members, for the invite. We've got a brief presentation which is going to be introduced by the leader, and myself, Emlyn, and Angela will chip in when needed. And at the end of the presentation, obviously, we're happy to take questions. So I'll hand over to the leader to introduce the presentation, and then Angela and Emlyn will join in. Jock and Vale, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. And thank you, Hugh and Rhian, for adjusting the agenda because I've been called somewhere else. I'm sorry for any inconvenience that has caused. We do have a presentation, as the lead member suggested. So, Angela, can I ask you to put the slides on, please?
Right, can people see that yet?
No, Angela.
Sorry,
No.
Angela, no, we can't see it yet.
Right, okay, sorry, I will try again. Okay. Right, if I try to share screen.
Something's happening, Angela.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Oh, good.
I can see it now. I'm assuming everybody else can.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
Can everybody see it okay?
Yes,
Yeah, apologies for that.
Thank you. Yeah, okay. You want to go, Hugh, yeah?
Angela,
Please, thank you.
the way it's displayed, Angela, at the moment, you've got the slide and you've got the next slide up as well that's showing.
Oh, okay, right, sorry.
I mean, it'll work okay, that, but it's obviously we can see the next slide that's coming up as well.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, but it
folks.
works okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
That's fine, Angela. Yeah. Okay, so I'll just introduce the agenda item. And as we know, Gypsy and Travellers has been to Scrutiny on a few occasions now, and there have been some interesting conversations on this particular subject. But also during the last process of the assessment needs and scrutiny discussions, many concerns have been raised by members, and we have taken some of those concerns on board in terms of what we need to address. So a project board has been set up. The intention of the project board, which I'm on with the lead member and a series of officers, including Graham, is to make sure that members are engaged earlier on in the process. That's really important. There was a perception or there was an element of fact previously that this had been run away with officers, and because it was at the beginning of the council, members were responding to a process which they hadn't been part of. So I'm really keen that members feel that they are engaged in this process earlier on, which I think is vital, and that there is a balanced approach across the organisation in terms of membership on the task and finish group. So the Ask Today Chair and the focus of the conversation is asking the community scrutiny if they would consider establishing a task and finish group to assist with and inform on Gypsy Traveller accommodation assessments. And that's about the housing needs. It's not the work of allocating sites. It's just addressing the issue if there is a housing need or not. So that's what we are requesting today. The other part of the project board is important that the process is clear and that the process is understood, and that scrutiny do hold to account the fact that the process has been adhered to and members understand that, because it's all about assuring members before a decision is required. And sometimes in the last process, the process was being adjusted, the engagement was a bit reactive, the consultation wasn't as clear and as planned as it should be. This time, the discussions in the project board are that we do that right, and that scrutiny are key in helping the authority move this forward, hence the need for a task and finish group. So we also, as an authority, which Gary will come to later on, we have our legal responsibilities and legal duties as an authority, and it's important that we can't sort of ignore that fact either. It's not just about doing the housing needs for Gypsy and Travellers, it's also marrying that up to our legal responsibilities. So if you move to the next slide, please, Angela. So this is just going the background. The last housing needs assessment was done in 2017. We're due to do it again now. So that's why we've done a bit of work in terms of getting this right. Member engagements, process is clear. And it's just reflecting on the fact that this went to Cabinet. There was a casting vote in Cabinet, and then we got that through. We went to Planning Committee, and both the sites were refused. But hence, just to remind again, this is not about sites, this is about housing assessment. But I just want to, I've said it a few times, but we have taken on board what wasn't good the first time round, and hopefully we've addressed some of those issues this time, Chair. So I'll move on next to Gary, please.
Helo, bore da. Diolch yn fawr iawn, Arweinydd. So just to follow on really from that, I think that the lead has already touched on it. There's a duty for all local authorities in Wales to undertake an assessment of that need and the need of Gypsy and Travellers every 5 years. So that's called the Gypsy and Travellers Accommodation Assessment, and we often call it the GTAA. And it is a housing needs assessment, so as has already been covered. It's nothing to do with finding locations. It's about identifying the need. And this is what we're here today about. And this is our kind of our priority at the moment. So Welsh Government have identified that some GYPSY, oh, apologies, I've lost my screen now for some reason.
Turn it down and clywed ti.
Apologies, my screen's gone blank. So apologies, I'm back in now. Sorry about that. So Welsh Government have identified that some GYPSY and travellers' families have the need for culturally appropriate accommodation. And as I've already mentioned, the GTA process will identify those needs for Denbighshire families. It also assesses the needs for families travelling through the county. The lack of alternatives for these families results in unauthorised encampments. So, and the way that we will undertake the GTAA is set by Welsh Government and guidance set by Welsh Government. So it's clearly set out, and that's the way that every local authority in Wales operates. And we will undertake the GTAA according to the methodology set by Welsh Government. So Angela, can you move on? I'll hand over to Councillor Mark Young now, please.
Okay, thank you, Emlyn, and thank you, Chair. I'll leave my camera off just to make sure you can hear me. So the local development plan, the current plan was adopted in 2013. There's been significant changes in our communities since this time, and as such, the plan is increasingly becoming out of date. It is important, therefore, that we have an up-to-date local development plan, LDP, that replaces the current LDP. Work on the new LDP has started, and lots of research and information is required to support the new LDP. We've appointed independent consultants, ORS, to produce the GTAA report for Denbighshire using a structured methodology. And as explained previously, the GTAA is an important legal document that is required for the new LDP. And importantly, no GTAA, no new LDP. Next slide, please. Thank you, Angela. The LDP sets out local priorities for land allocation across the county and includes land, housing, employment, and the protection of green space, etc. The LDP also includes local policies, e.g. affordable housing, carbon reduction, protection of important environments and species. It is developed following extensive consultation with locally elected members, local residents and businesses. It is really important that we have an up-to-date adopted LDP. I'll hand over now, thank you.
Diolch yn fawr, Mark. Thank you, Angela. So, as we've already mentioned more than once now, we are now required to undertake a new GTA to understand our current need. So the work on the LDP has already started. And this is, as Mark has just said, a really important document for the county. Lots of research and information is required to support that new LDP, including this new GTAA. So Mark's covered that we've already identified consultants to be leading on this work. And again, they will undertake that work in line with specific methodology set by Welsh Government. So we've listened to the feedback by Scrutiny and others and want to make sure that from the beginning, really, we're operating in the best possible way forward. We are not currently progressing on any work to look for sites. Thank you. Move on to Mark.
Okay, thank you, Jock and Val. So moving forward, you said work should be member-led. We are applying a project management approach with the lead of the council and a lead member with responsibility on the project board. You said engage early with members and communicate more. We are talking to members, including SPG. We've done a members briefing and a members briefing note has been issued. We've explored with Scrutiny chairs and vice chairs how to involve members and the proposal is to establish a Scrutiny task and finish group. You said consult more with GYPSY and travellers. We are building into the requirement of the project business case, and again, we hope that Scrutiny task and finish group will help monitor this. You said pause work to develop sites. We are not progressing any further work on any sites while we establish an up-to-date picture of the need, if any. Next slide, please, Angela. Okay, obviously a lot of detail in this. I'll pick out the main points of the task and finish group role. The purpose is to seek scrutiny committee support to assist Cabinet, the GTAA project board in the development of the new GTAA. Obviously, we've got objectives listed. The membership will be spread out equally between member and membership. We think there'll be meetings of potentially between 4 and 7. We have officer support, and obviously as lead member, although as a cabinet member I'm not allowed to be part of this group officially, I'm obviously keen if invited to attend to help with the work. So I'm offering that, and I hope that'll be accepted because I think that's important. And lastly, this work will be responsible in supporting the delivery of the new GYPSY and Travelling assessment document. This work will not include any site selection or respond to the review on ongoing operational matters around G&T sites or other encampments. I'll hand over now to Emlyn, I believe. Thank you.
Right, just the next slide, sorry. This is just a brief outline of the proposed task for the task and finish group. So initially it'll be looking at the terms of reference and a plan of task, an introduction, why we need to have a GYPSY and traveller accommodation assessment, looking at cultural awareness, discussion about who the key stakeholders are, and an opportunity to meet the consultants as well. The first meeting of the task and finish group is penciled in for next week. We've got a really tight time scale, so it's the 19th of May will be the first meeting. A further task will be reviewing the methodology and the consultant's work brief, developing and reviewing draft communications and stakeholder engagement plans. And then there are a number of meetings. This will culminate in a report to Community Scrutiny Committee in July. And it may be that we need to arrange an additional meeting. It's quite a tight time scale, so it could be that there has to be an additional meeting of Community Scrutiny to take this report back. And then over the summer there'll be consultation with gypsies and travellers, information and data gathering, so the work on the assessment, the work that will feed into the assessment. Following on from that, the task and finish group will be reviewing progress, advising on progress of consultation. They'll review the draft GTAA report, and then culminating in a report from the chair to Community Scrutiny Committee, probably in November. And then ultimately it will be a cabinet decision to approve or not the final draft GTAA. And I'll hand back to the leader.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to step in here now, Angela, if that's okay. Okay, proposed next steps to seek agreement from Communities Scrutiny Committee to establish a task and finish group and agree the terms of reference. Also to confirm reps from MAGS for the task and finish group, and establish a task and finish group and progress work as the task list on the previous slide. Also, the task and finish group will report its findings, conclusions, and any proposed recommendations to Community Scrutiny Committee. So obviously, as lead member, I understand you weren't happy with the last process, and I'm happy to take that on the chin and take responsibility. But I hope by reading this document and understanding the amount of work on it, officers and myself and the leader, we've listened, and I hope you endorse this approach. And I'll hand over to the leader and say a few words before questions. Jochen Val.
Yeah, thank you, Mark, for the honesty in that conclusion, and that's what it's about, really. But also, it's the partnership working with officers and members this time. As you can see, there's been a mix of officers and members providing this presentation. We've had quite intensive discussions to put this report before you today, and I hope that Scrutiny feels assured that the work that's gone in so far will set the platform for a proper and open discussion for the task and finish group to do the work on this and come back to scrutiny in due course. But thank you, Chair. That's it from me.
Thank you. And can I also, on behalf of the scrutiny, thank you for listening to what we've said in the last scrutiny meeting. And it's a good example on how the scrutiny is working so well. We've given you feedback. You've come back with some really, I feel, really positive outlook on what's ahead, and hopefully we can do this. Just before we go to questions and members, I'm only going to take statements or questions on the papers in front of me. I'm not going to talk about individual sites or travelling communities. So I've got one, is Brian Blakey first.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, I'd like to put my name forward to be a member of the staff group for this group. I feel.
Sorry, Brian, can I stop you there? Sorry, it's been agreed. Okay, in the mags, I believe. Rhian.
Yes, just for clarity, the request was sent to all member area groups in advance of this meeting to ask for nominations to serve on this group, because there were, as Angela mentioned, I think the first meeting is next week of this task and finish group. So we asked all member area groups to send a nomination in, which was approved by the member area groups. We've had nominations from all 6 now. So unless something changes, those people will, if this is approved today, those people will start work on that task and finish group.
Thanks very much for that, Rhian. I wasn't aware of that. I didn't attend the last task and finish group, so I wasn't aware. The reason I put my name forward, I felt it would be appropriate with me being the homeless champion of Denbighshire, that I may be able to put some input. On top of that, over the last 3 years, I've had a lot of input into problems we've had locally, Real High School, with the travelling communities.
Brian, could you take that up with your MAGS group maybe and discuss it outside this meeting? I know we have had a nomination from your MAGS, and we appreciate all the hard work you've done, and as a homeless champion, we take on board what you said, but if you could take it up with the MAGS, it'd be great. Thank you. Next speaker is Peter. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very pleased that this, obviously, this scrutiny, this task and finish group is going to be established, and we can get into doing this job properly this time. And I think that's what everybody wants. I was going to ask you with the consultants, but I saw on the slide that we're meeting them. Another question: can we have the slides, Angela, just so as I can run through them and look what's going on? It's fine. Yeah, very keen to get started whenever you're ready. The one. I'm just worried that the one statement said no GTAA, no LDP. I hope that's not going to put too much pressure on the group. That's all. That's all I want to say. Ready to go when you are. Thank you.
Angela, did you want to come back with the slides?
Yes, no problem at all. We can make sure that the slides are made available to all members in the group.
Any more members?
Yeah, can I just come in on the point of the no assessment, no LDP? So I know there is pressure there, but as lead member, if it didn't share that burden, it'd be quite wrong. So it's a statement which is actually factually correct. So it's pressure there, and I'm hoping we can do it via this, but it's in there because of the importance of it. So thank you, Chair.
Chair,
I have.
It's
Graham
here.
Yeah.
Can I just come in to add to that?
Yeah.
Because it is an important point that Councillor Peter has raised, and lead member's response is absolutely right. But I just want to add a little bit to that. And it's not that pressure does exist, and it's not a pressure of our making. It's a pressure of the legislation. So it's quite clear that if we do all the work for an LDP but exclude a GTAA, and we go into the public arena with that LDP with no GTAA in front of the independent inspector that would have to analyse our LDP, he won't let us advance it. It will stop, and he'll tell us to go back and do work on the GTAA. So you're right, Peter, it is a pressure, but it's not there by office, if you like, to say, come on, members, you've got to get this GTAA, and we're putting this in as a bit of pressure. It's a real pressure that the council in the end will have a choice to make. That if you don't progress the GTAA, the fallout of that will be you will not have an LDP. Not because we won't be able to progress it to the inspector stage, but because the inspector simply would send us back. He wouldn't open the inquiry. He wouldn't authorise an LDP unless the GTAA had been done. So at some point, we're going to be into a, if we don't move on with the GTAA work, we'll be in a conflict situation where we won't be able to advance the LDP. And I think that would be a big mistake for the council, because not having a LDP would have lots of ramifications over the coming years. So it's a real pressure that we've got to grapple with and understand. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Graham. I've got 4 speakers. I've got Glenn Swingler and then Rachel Flynn.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm just going to stick to this GTAA requirement. February 2022, this has to be submitted to Welsh Government. I'm assuming that doesn't mean the actual site, but just the assessment need. And also, how does that fit in with our timescale on the LDP? When does that have to be submitted by?
Emlyn, ti eisiau neud hwnna? Angela, sorry.
And Angela will want to add, certainly, the timescale is about submission of the GTAA. And obviously, Angela's team, we're working really hard to align all that to the timescales of the new LDP. But I don't know whether Angela can update on the timescales of the LDP as well. I know we've had communication from Welsh Government around the LDP itself, haven't we, and the revision of the LDP.
Yeah, certainly. Clearly any delays in producing the GTAA is going to have impacts on the production of the LDP. The LDP has already been delayed largely because of COVID. The current situation here,
We're losing you, sorry, Angela. Angela, you want to turn your camera off?
Is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah. The current LDP remains as a tool, basically, until we have a new one in place, until we have a new adopted LDP in place. The current adopted LDP is the LDP, so it continues forward. It doesn't suddenly come to an end, as we've been previously advised by Welsh Government. But so that's the situation at the moment. We are currently looking at revising the timetable for the LDP, so there will be reports going through strategic planning group looking at a new timetable.
Thank you, Angela.
Chair, Graham here again.
Graham,
Can I just pop in just to add a little bit more to the answer that's been given? Councillor Swindler asked about the date for submission of the GTA. We're just being clear here that date doesn't involve sites, of course. It doesn't. All it is the assessment. We don't know what the assessment's going to say yet. If the assessment starts to talk about the need for sites, then that's a completely different discussion at a later stage once you've submitted that. So there's that deadline date is simply for submission of an approved GTAA, not for any discussion or allocation of any site. We don't even know if there will need to be any sites that will need to be provided. So I hope that makes it clear. That's why we've tried to break it down into kind of smaller chunks without getting ahead of ourselves. This is simply about submitting the GTAA that will be a transparent process. That's why we're here today, involving a working group of scrutiny, transparency, eventual agreement at Cabinet to a GTA that can be submitted to Welsh Government. It doesn't talk about how we provide any sites that might be necessary result of that process. Hopefully that's clear, because the purpose of this is to be clear. We want everyone to be on the kind of same page and understanding of the process. Hopefully that helps, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Glenn, Happis?
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you. Rachel Flynn, please.
Thank you, Chair. My question was regarding we identified one family before, however means that came about, that we identified that one family. I just want to know, like, the human factor, is that one family still waiting for a residential site? And will that be incorporated into the new LDP?
Rachel, can I stop you? Sorry, we can't talk about one family, I think, and it's not on the agenda. I think it's a bit sensitive if we carry on.
Chair, it's all relative, because I'm trying to understand the needs. If you're saying there was a family identified as a need,
can I call Gary Williams just to
need?
clarify this, please? who's doing the Gary? Can you Graham Bowes? Can you help here?
Of course, Chair. Yeah. I think you're right, Chair, to air some caution around identifying individuals, but I think also in the balance, in fairness to Councillor Rachel Flynn, it's probably part of it's relevant, because I think, Rachel, you're asking what is the status of the current assessment, because the current assessment identified the need for a residential site as well as a transit site. So I think that's the question, as opposed to getting into any specific details. So I think it's relevant, Chair. I think it's a fair question. I don't know if Angela wants to start to answer that question around how we're treating the existing GYPSY and traveller assessment that did identify the need for a residential site. Thank you.
Thank you.
Angela?
Right, thank you. Yes, you're absolutely right that the assessment we have in place at the moment, the current assessment does identify a need for the family. That's still in place, that assessment. The point of part of the point of going forward with a new assessment is to make sure we've got up-to-date information to inform where we go from here, basically what we do in the future. So it may be that that needs have changed, which could be there isn't a need or there is more need moving into the future. So but the whole point of doing a new assessment is to make sure the information we have is up to date. So I hope that helps to answer the question.
Angela, could I just come in on that point? It was just to say, really, I hadn't finished when he would sort of stopped me in my tracks, but I was just going to go on to say that, you know, currently, if somebody is wanting a need for housing, residential housing, if they're a GYPSY and traveller, they can approach the council, can't they? And as in every other person would approach the council with a need for housing. Is that correct?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. I suppose the issue is about appropriate accommodation and whether we have appropriate accommodation to meet people's needs. But yes, as I say, moving forward, it's all about making sure we have that up-to-date information.
Thank you. Yeah, happy, Rachel?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Yeah. I have got responsibility as chair, so, and if I need legal action, I obviously feel fit to ask, I will. But yeah, thank you. Next is Councillor Parry.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks to everybody who's put this report together. Can you hear me okay? Is the camera on?
Turn the camera off, Mervyn.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, better, yeah.
Better. Yeah, just thank you everybody for doing this report. I mean, I think I'm pleased that it's come to us to deliver it this way, because when we do going forward after having the task and finish, there'll be a proper process of delivering if there's a need for a GTAA. You know, it's been a messy few years trying to deliver what we've done in the past, and I think going forward now to deliver this into the next LDP, I think we'll be in a much more professional possibly position to be able to put it. I mean, if there's a need for it, then having been through the task and finish and agreed by full council when it is, we will all have the responsibility then of having to make sure we deliver what will have been decided from this to put in our LDP, rather than the cat and mouse fight like we've had in the last few years. So thanks very much for putting this forward, and I'd be happy to support this going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And Graham Timms, thank you.
Sorry, sorry, Graham. Chair, just one point to a slight correction, I think, in process from the Mervyn Parry's helpful statement. I think it's just worth correcting it. The GTAA, once it's gone through the process, and that process will be with the support of Scrutiny in the way that we've described and you seem to be comfortable with. In order to submit the council's GTA to Welsh Government for consideration, it won't go to full council. That's not the plan. The plan is it'll be a cabinet decision, ultimately to submit it to Welsh Government. But obviously we want to be in a position that when it goes to council, that this scrutiny and its working group is comfortable and has supported that process. So ultimately, the decision route to get it to Welsh Government for their consideration is via Cabinet, not full council. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Graham.
Graham Timms, please.
Thanks, Chair. I thought before the discussion started that I was very clear about what needed to be done, but as it's progressed, I've got less and less clear. My understanding was that unless the county had actually identified sites to meet the needs of the GTAA, then the LDP wouldn't be progressed. Now, obviously, the GTAA is a process and it identifies a need. But the identification of sites is the place where it failed last time. We had a GTAA previously. So no GTAA, no LDP. That's certainly what I understood. But I understood that it also had to identify sites before the LDP was passed. But does it have to identify not only the number of places that have to be identified, but also whereabouts in the county those have to be? Or is it just simply identifying the need in the county full stop, or does it go further than that? Yeah.
I think Councillor Young was coming up on that.
Yeah, so we can't, at this point, we can't say what the need, if any, can we, Graham's and Councillor Tim? So you're right, but it's a different process and we can't jump the gun because we don't know and we shouldn't assume. So you're right, but there's many pieces to the LDP jigsaw. So that's part of it, but only if the need is shown during this assessment. So you can't go on to that stage until the assessment's been signed off. So and officers can come in, but that's how I think it is. Thank you.
Yeah, diolch, Mark. Any other questions from outside the group as well?
Sorry, Chair, Graham again. Just to I think Mark's answered that correctly. We've got to take it one step at a time. We can get into all sorts of hypotheticals around what will the GTA say. What we need to and I don't think it would be appropriate to do that, but we need a GTAA in order to advance the LDP. Now, if the GTAA starts to talk about the need, that there is identified needs for sites, then the LDP starts to talk about how it would need to address that. So it wouldn't be good enough to go into a LDP inquiry and say, look, we've done a GTAA. The GTAA identifies this, this, and this. And the LDP is then silent on it because we're saying, well, all we've done is the GTAA. Clearly, the LDP will need to respond to whatever the needs assessment says. That doesn't necessarily mean allocation of sites, though. There might be a whole different route, and we're going to get into hypothetical issues, which is probably where we get into trouble because we start going a little bit too far down the line. And I think we should just take one step at a time. Let's agree to do the GTAA because it's a legal requirement. Let's agree how we're going to do that, which is a cabinet decision to take it to Welsh Government for their final approval. But before it goes to cabinet, we've got lots of input from Scrutiny in order to ensure Scrutiny are happy that it's followed due process and it's made all the considerations and that it's an inclusive process. Once we know what the GTAA says, then we'll need to regroup and decide how we take that forward in light of the LDP. I hope that's helpful for members. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Graham. Any other questions from anybody? No. No questions. Okay, I'll go to Graham Timms for the summing up. Okay, yeah. Rhian, can you tell us who the members are from the MAGs?
Yes, following the email sent to all MAG members, the nominations that came forward from each one are for the Dee Valley, Councillor Alan Hughes, for Denbigh, Councillor Gwyneth Kensler, Elwy MAG, Councillor Peter Scott, Prestatyn, Councillor Hugh Irving, Rill, Councillor Barry Mellor, and Ruthin, Councillor Martin Holland.
Diolch, Rhian. So, Graham, can you sum up, please, the recommendations?
Okay, thanks. So the two recommendations that we have in front of us are that we agree to establish a scrutiny task and finish group to assist and inform work on the new GYPSY and traveller accommodation assessment. and that we agree the terms of reference that's in the pack. So they're the two recommendations.
Thank you, Graham. Do you have a proposer?
I'll propose that, Chair. I'll second
Peter
it,
Scott.
whichever one we do.
Yep, Peter Scott proposed, seconder. Councillor Parry, seconder. Are we all in favour? Show of hands, yeah. Anybody against? No. Great, thank you. Can I thank everybody who's come this morning to give this papers? It's definitely a way forward, and we look forward to the results. Thank you. Can we go on to agenda item 5? I think Brian Jones, are you there?
I certainly am, Chair. I'm certainly here.
Brian and Tony Ward.
Tony Ward should be here, and Tom.
Yeah, I'm here, Chair.
Yeah, Tony, yeah, great. Brian, do you want to kick off?
Yeah, is Tara Dumas with us, by the way? I didn't hear her holler.
She's just on her way into the meeting, Brian.
She's just on her way into the meeting. Okay, then. All right. Are you happy to go forward then, Chair?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Right. Okay then. Good morning, everybody. So this visit this morning to Community Scrutinies is to look at the new waste and recycling operation model, to give you a progress update on communication, service design, and benefits realisation. There's I think it's a lovely report. I think a bit of credit due there to the officers concerned. It's very self-explanatory. Personally, I like all the pictorial elements of the report. Appendix 1 covers the waste operational key milestones, and that's pretty self-explanatory. Appendix 2, we've got the benefit realisation plan. And Appendix 3, container and service design details. And the end piece of work is Table 3, which illustrates households that will go on to sack collections due to various reasons. So there's a lot of work that's gone in to get us where we are to this point. We're always delighted to come to Scrutiny to report on the progress. That's a brief high-level overview, Chair, of what this report's about. So Tony Ward may wish to add a little sprinkling onto that.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian. Borodar Paub, it's good to see you all. Hope you can hear me okay. If I start to go a bit wobbly, do let me know and I'll switch my camera off. But I'll leave it on for now, if that's okay. Just as a reminder, really, because it feels like a long time ago, because it was pre-COVID, and I'm not sure I remember a lot that happened pre-COVID, because it seems like a whole lifetime away. But the last time we came to this committee was in October 2019, and members at that time requested that we came back to a future meeting to provide two things. One being an update on the outcome of pilot projects that were being undertaken to increase the capture of recyclable waste. And the other thing was this benefits realisation plan. So that's fundamentally why we're here today. But as I said, as it was so long ago and so much has happened, we thought it would be an opportunity to update members on the project more generally. And that's why there's quite a lot of information attached to this report, because it's a very large and very complex project, but I thought members would want to see the stuff that was going on around those issues as well. I'm going to hand you over to Tara, because as I say, there's a lot of information. We're not going to talk through it all, but I think as those are the two things that specifically members wanted to hear from us today. Tara's just going to give a brief overview of what happened with those pilot projects, and also pick out a couple of highlights within the benefits realisation plan. And then we will just open it up to discussion and questions, Chair, if that's okay. So if it's all right with you, I'll just bring Tara in to give you a brief summary.
Thanks, Tony.
Are you there, Tara?
I am. Can you hear me?
You're very quiet.
Am I? Okay, hang on.
I think that's better.
Bring this a bit closer. Is that better?
It seems to be better.
Okay, right. I'll start with the benefits realisation plan, I think, if I may. As you know, the project was started initially
to do two things really. One was to look at trying to control the sort of increasing waste costs that we were having for treatment of recycling, and just generally the cost going up in the industry. And the second one was to try and prepare ourselves and move ourselves to the Welsh Government blueprint for recycling, so that we can align ourselves with the rest of Wales and meet their ambitions to be the #1 recycling nation. Currently we're about number 3, but that ambition is still very strongly there. We were asked during a Welsh audit of our 5 ways of working, you know, sort of to expand on why we were doing the project, and we thought the best way of doing that was to sort of like capture it in a benefits realisation plan, so we can track those benefits as the project goes through to completion and then into the sort of more longer term. And two of the main benefits really that I want to talk about a little bit in the project is, first of all, when we first started on this journey, the predicted recycling performance from the service change was about 68%. That still falls short of the statutory target in 24-25 of 70% recycling. So there was potentially more to do really to get to that target. And as obviously the project is getting closer to that date, we've been working quite hard to try and make sure the service change is, you know, we look at more aspects of that change to meet that target. We've actually had approval recently to purchase an in-cab technology system. Gives us lots more data about the collections, and also we intend to microchip the residual bins that will go out as part of the service change in 2023, the black bins, because that will allow us to do what we do now but do it better, and that is to actually make sure that we help those people that are not maybe recycling as much as they could and they're still recycling in the black bin. It helps us identify those properties very accurately, so that we can visit them. We already do that kind of sort of education enforcement work in the county as it is, but this will allow us to go that way and to sort of mandate that people do recycle the things that we're offering on our new curbside scheme. So you put that together with also a new project that we're working on with Welsh Government around the recycling of the absorbent hygiene product waste that we're going to be collecting, which is nappies and incontinence pads. We were going to collect anyway, but there isn't a reliable recycling treatment facility available really that's cost effective and that works well, that we can access through our work with Welsh Government and other local authorities. There is a tender out at the moment, and we may have a facility actually in Denbighshire itself, which is great for us, so we can recycle that waste stream that we'll be collecting from people who need it collecting when we move to a 4-weekly service. So you put those together with a few other things, and we actually will, this service stage now is predicted to meet the 70% recycling target. So that's an improvement since last time we saw you, and we're really pleased about that. We're also pleased about the way people are responding at the moment with recycling as a result of having more waste at home in general, because they're at home through the pandemic. So it's looking very positive. The other benefit I wanted to explain a little bit about was the extended producer responsibility scheme. So that's in there as one of the main benefits, and one of the reasons this service change is timed really, really well. The extended producer responsibility scheme is a scheme where in the future the manufacturers and producers will be funding the cost of collecting recycling and collecting waste from their products, and there'll be an organisation set up that will actually give funding to local authorities for that, not just the collections, hopefully also the education work, the enforcement work, and some of the ancillary work around that, and also research into making sure that there are good treatment solutions for the wastes that they produce, especially packaging waste. This is predominantly aimed at. Now they will be able to offer funding back to us in Denbighshire based on the quality of the material that we collect. The way that we're going with this service change, from going away from a mixed recycling collection and separating it into more defined streams, retains that quality, and that is what these manufacturers want. They want the quality, and they will give us a better financial rebate for that material. So the way that our service change is working now, we are timed to just get that service change in before the first payments start to come through on that scheme. So they were the two main ones I wanted to talk about on that. Going on to the recycling projects that we were working on last time I met with you all, there were two projects we had going at the time. One was we had some trials around microchipping the food waste caddies to see what impact that had on people's behaviours and on the amount of tonnage that we captured from the scheme. It was very small, four very small pilots across the county with several hundred properties on each pilot. Now what we found from that was that even though it was a very small pilot, the amount of tonnage that increased because of all the positive media coverage that we got and the intense media coverage we got in that time. We actually, for 6 months after that project started, got about an increase of 50 tonnes a month, which we normally were getting in about 330 to 340 tonnes a month, and now up until COVID hit, we were regularly going above 370 to up to 400 tonnes. So what happened was, the media coverage, we had a massive surge of people asking for caddies across the county, the media articles, and it did encourage a lot more people to take it up, even though we weren't actually microchipping caddies everywhere. And the reason we picked the caddies to do that on is because we wanted to test some software and some hardware, some new sort of like developments that were coming out of the industry around microchipping. So it doesn't mean that we intend to chip caddies going forward, but we are going to apply that technology and that learning to our pilot project in West Rill around chipping reusable sacks, so that we understand again where these sacks have come from. The other campaign was the Keep Up With the Joneses campaign that had, I think it was about 6 to 8 weeks in when we had to stop it because of COVID. So we haven't got any sort of long, any figures really to show you on that and the long-term impact of that campaign. But that was about, in the past we'd focused on looking at the blue bin and making sure people didn't contaminate that blue bin with the wrong materials. This new campaign was more about looking at the black bin and encouraging those people that were putting lots of recycling in that black bin to actually take it out and recycle more. And we applied a very similar process, a 3-stage warning process, education and warning process. What we found before COVID is that we had to write to a lot of people. It was over 1,000 people we had to write to in the first sort of sway after everybody got their leaflet. The good thing is the next cycle that fell right back. So it does prove that the education element and the letters initially to draw people's attention to it does help. So we intend to run that campaign again in the West Rill area this year, and we're just in the process of delivering leaflets to the areas as well. So that's the update on those really. I'm happy to answer any questions or expand on any of the comments made.
Thank you, Tara. Brian, is that your presentation yet, everybody? Emily? Tony, sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I'm happy to open it up to questions and debate.
I have a question from a resident of Denbigh who currently puts her dog poo bags in her black bin. Obviously, she has concerns of the amount of time that the bag would be in over summer months with the heat. How do they go forward with this?
Okay, I'm happy to take this one, Chair. That's okay. There's a few things really. I mean, and it's something we've obviously discussed. I think we've discussed this probably at every meeting we've been to talk about the waste model. It's something that does keep coming up, so I know that it's of concern to people. But essentially, what we have agreed previously in meetings that we've been to, our position is that people will continue to bag their dog waste and put it into their black bin. Now, I'm not aware of any council at all that has a pet waste service. And although I can see why it might seem like a desirable thing from a resident's perspective, it isn't really practical, and I don't believe that it could actually be achieved. What you'd be looking at you know, I know we've had many requests, quite a lot of requests for a, you know, a specific dog waste or pet waste service, and what you'd be looking at there is something similar to the food waste caddy, but probably bigger. And there's no chance at all that I would get anybody to do that job. That's one of the things. You know, I've been on the food waste round myself, and doesn't matter how careful you are, you do end up with food bin juice running down your arm at times. That happens. So if you think about that, but replace food waste with dog waste, I think you can probably see the problem and the reason why we would be unable to get anybody, rightly, I think, to do that job. And it's certainly not a job that I would want to do. But I think if people are worried about the smell of their bins, you know, because it's got pet waste in it, I would actually suggest that
Oh, you broke up, Tony, sorry.
Oh, sorry, do I need to turn my camera off?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll stop my camera. I hope that's a bit better.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, people are worried about the smell of their pet waste mixed in with other waste in their black bin. I actually think that a separate bin that contains nothing but pet waste would actually be a lot worse in terms of smell. It would just be a bin full of dog waste, and that's not. I think that's going to smell horrendous. I think, you know, bagging that waste and mixing it with the general waste in the black bin is actually a better option. And I don't actually think that you know, if it's emptied 2 weekly or 4 weekly, it makes a huge amount of difference in terms of the smell. And I must admit, you know, I am talking from experience because I am a dog owner myself, and I live in Conway where the bin's emptied every 4 weeks, and you know, I don't think it's an issue. You know, I don't notice that that's a big problem at all. Black bins do smell, you know, they do, and I think they tend to smell if people don't clean them out after each time it's emptied, and I think that does really help. You know, it doesn't matter if you've got pet waste in it or not, the bin can smell if you don't do that. So I don't think it's practical or necessary to have a separate collection for pet waste, and that's the position of the service.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. It's quite nice to have a question from the residents of Denbighshire,
Sure.
from Denby this case. Thank you.
Chair, Graham here. Can I just add to that?
Yes.
From personal experience as well? I'm no expert on this, but it is personal experience. I do live in Conway. I have a black bin. It gets collected every month by Conway Council. I have a cat, so we clean out the litter tray on a regular basis and put that in a plastic bag and tie it really tightly so it's airtight. We put that in the black bin. And we've got 2 rabbits for my sins who also need clearing out, and we put them in a plastic, not them, the droppings, etc.
Okay.
Not the rabbits.
I was a bit worried then.
We put the droppings and the waste in a bag, tie it tightly, put it in the black bin, and to be honest, we don't really have an issue at all with smells.
Lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
That's just a personal experience.
Yeah,
but I understand
lovely.
it is an issue. Thank you.
I'm glad you don't put the rabbits in the bin, but it looks great. Rachel Flynn, please.
Thank you, Chair. I've just got a couple of questions. One of them is about the biodegradable bags. You know, that you were saying about the microchipped pink ones. Are they biodegradable? And also the reusable bags. Just worried about the hygiene content of those because obviously they've got to be cleaned out at some point. And the other question was about in table number 3, it shows households are limited to storage, yet there's about 7 different types of bag or box that they have to store each individual type of rubbish.
Okay.
There's
a few things there. Tara, are you going to start there?
Yeah, the reusable bags that would be microchipped are the only bags that would be microchipping are the sort of outer casing, if you like. It's something for the residents living in flats to it'll fold up and go away, and they can then basically have smaller sort of shopping size bags for the other waste streams that can be put, you know, they can put their cans in one, the glass in another, the paper in another, and then when they present them outside, if they present small bags like that outside, they just all blow away, and it'd be quite difficult to to control. The other bag that they will present them in is the outer casing, and this is why we want to trial it in the sort of Westerhill area. And there'll also be a gulf-proof sack for the residual waste. The residual waste is still expected to be bagged in a disposable bag first before it goes into the outer casing to keep it clean and keep it protected. We have had about 20 to 30 of these gulf-proof sacks out on trial, ahead of the main trial, and residents do like them because they stop the seagulls from getting in them. Basically, that's the main purpose of them, is to keep the seagulls from, because they just tear up any disposable sacks that we put out. So there's an expectation that residents in the properties with no storage, that they will bag their residual waste in disposable sacks before putting them in the reusable outer casing. And it's a reusable outer casing that will be microchipped, so then we know which flats, who belongs to each flat. Because obviously if they're putting their bags out at the the curtilage of the property, then we don't know whose is whose if they're not chipped. There'll be a big pocket so they can write there, or we can pre-print their address on, but we still need the microchip to really ascertain that, so we know whose is whose. And if somebody is presenting waste not bagged and not contained very well, and it's all messy, we can, there's a special button on the wristbands that we trialed with the food waste caddies. They've got these wristbands, so there's various things that can be pressed to say, right, this particular property, they've got a dirty outer bag, we need to go and speak to them and get them to present the waste correctly. So it's a small trial area really, but we know there's quite a lot of non-compliance in the Westerhill area for lots of reasons, and that's why we want to go this extra mile. And if the sacks work well, we will consider then rolling them out to other areas across the council where there's space restrictions.
Happy, Rachel?
Yeah, it was just the other question about table 3 about the households with the storage. Yeah, they've got about 7 different types. Is that incorporated? Do you mean the 7 different types in the one bag? Is that what you meant, Tara?
Sort of. For the recycling, they'll have little bags that are shopping size bags that they can put.
Yeah.
So hopefully, because they're small enough, they can go under a kitchen sink or something like that. And then they present those in that bigger bag. So they'll have 3 bags, one for everybody who, we're moving this service, for our trade customers, for residents, everybody. We have to segregate this waste. So there'll be 1 bag for glass, 1 bag for cans and plastic. There'll be another bag for paper and perhaps grey card, and then they'll go in the bigger bag, but there'll be room in that bigger bag for also cardboard as well, to keep it dry, the larger pieces of cardboard. This is for the sack customers. Not everybody will want a sack. Some people might prefer boxes. Not everyone has got as big a space restriction as others. So just because they haven't got room for a trolley box and room for bins doesn't mean that they can't have boxes. So what we're trying to portray in that is that they will have a choice of boxes or bags. They will have a food waste caddy as well. A lot of people already do have a food waste caddy, but what we've realised now is that if people are living in, say, HMO properties, they're sleeping and living in quite a small environment. They don't want a big orange caddy. There's nowhere to put an orange caddy outside. So we're looking at offering people in Westerhill at the moment a 10-litre caddy, which is bigger than the one that we've got at the moment, for the kitchen top caddy. So it's kind of a halfway house. So it's big enough that they can probably manage some food waste if they're living on their own as well. So what we're trying to do is expand the range of options for people who have got space restrictions, but in a way that means that we can still collect it.
Chair, if I can just add, what Tara's kind of describing here is what we said when we originally came to scrutiny, is that we wouldn't impose a one-size-fits-all approach to every household in the county, because we knew that wouldn't work. We think the standard model will work for the vast majority of households and areas in the county, but there will be particular areas or particular households where they can't manage with the standard offer that we will be putting out, and that's where we will have some different options for people, because we need it to work. We need it to work for everybody in some way. So we've got to have an element of flexibility, and we will engage with residents if they are struggling with the standard offer, and find something that works for them. I just wanted to add that, really.
Just to come in on that as well, Rachel, the frequency of collection will be different for some of the properties on Saks. They'll have a more frequent collection, so they don't have to store their waste because they haven't really got anywhere to store it. So at the moment in the West Rill trial, we're looking at a weekly collection for residual waste for these properties that really don't have anywhere to put it outside, and a weekly recycling service as well. So that means that the container sizes can be as small as we can make them.
Yeah, we can't force a system on people where we know it's not going to work. It's only going to cause problems. So we are taking a flexible approach.
I think on page 62 as well, it gives you a bit of an option of the different boxes and bags as well. That's quite interesting as well. So Rachel, are you happy?
Thank you.
Brian Blakely, please. Brian, you're on mute. There we are.
Oh, sorry, guys. A lot of noise in the background. My phone's never stopped this morning. Okay, yeah, just to go back on what Tony was saying before about dog waste. I had a problem, Tony, last year. Now, what I do, because I've got 2 greyhounds, and of course, like yourself, you say they do cause a lot of mess. I put my dog waste into a Sainsbury's or Morrison's or whatever bag, and I then tie it up and put it in my black bin. Unfortunately, there's quite a lot of it. I had a case last year when we had some very hot weather. Unfortunately, when my black bin was full of maggots, and I mean full of maggots, they were coming out the top. Very concerned, because I thought, well, when our refuge guys appear, they're not going to take my bin. So I had to empty it all out and get my Karcher on it and clean it all out.
We've lost you, Brian. Sorry.
Yeah, as I said, over the time of the hot weather last year, I had maggots in my bin, which I was concerned about because I thought the refuge would not empty my bin. I had to empty it myself and clean it out. My concern is if we're going to be waiting 4 weeks, and I have got 2 greyhounds, and those 2 greyhounds eat a lot, so they fat a lot. And maybe we have some very hot weather like we did last year, I'm going to have another problem with maggots in my bin. I do get it cleaned every fortnight. I pay to have it cleaned, to get steam cleaned. That is one problem, just to go back on what you were saying. The other question I have is regarding cross-contamination, especially with our elderly people. Are we going to have leeway on this? Because again, as you know, Tony, we got a lot of elderly people out there that are concerned about moving away from the blue and black bin into these boxes or bags, whether they're going to be able to get this right, and if they make a mistake, are we suddenly going to turn up and say, I'm sorry, we can't move this because you've contaminated the bin? Where do we stand on that, Tony? Are we going to have leeway? Another thing, Rachel mentioned before that maybe we could do a trial as councillors on communities. Maybe we could trial this ourselves for a time just to see how well it runs.
Thank you, Brian. Rachel, did you want to come back on what Brian was saying, or was it something different?
Yeah, no, it was just I'm going on something different, but yeah.
Okay, can you just hold for a minute then? Sorry. Brian, who's going to answer Brian's?
Probably a combination, I guess, of me and Tara. I haven't spoken to Tara for a while about the prospect of a trial with the new model. I genuinely don't know what she thinks about that, but I suspect one of the issues might be that if we have a different model, 2 different models running, then it could cause problems operationally because our collection operation is set up for our existing model at the moment. But I'm sure Tara will let you know what her thoughts are about that, and also to talk about those issues of what happens if people put the wrong thing in the wrong in the wrong container, because I'm absolutely sure that's been talked about in detail as part of the project. Tara, do you want to come in first, and then I'll chip in?
I'll talk about the maggots first. Just to the life cycle of a maggot is actually, their ability to lay eggs and turn into maggots is actually very, very short. So it makes little difference whether it's a 2-week or a 4-weekly cycle as to whether those maggots will appear. The maggots will only lay eggs if there is a food source to actually go on. So I think it is making sure that the bins are kept clean, as Tony alluded to earlier, and also making sure that the actual bags that you're using, when they are tied, that they are actually completely airtight. Proper poo bags, obviously, when you tie those, they are completely sealed, and there is nothing for the flies to lay their eggs on. A supermarket bag could, sort of creased up and tied, that there is likely to be small holes that the flies can get into. It's also making sure that there's no holes in your bin, that there's no cracks, that the lid shuts properly. All of those things are all sort of good management that can reduce the likelihood of getting maggots. So I personally don't think that there's any increased likelihood over a 4-week to 2-week, as long as people are managing that. And it's quite obvious, I think, from the concerns that both members and residents have, that we are going to have to, give a lot of advice out on good bin management as part of the service change. Moving on to vulnerable people who might get it wrong sometimes for recycling. There is a process. We had for the Keep Up with the Joneses campaign, we made sure that we had back office systems that could, if it came to our attention through our sort of education work that somebody in the household was vulnerable, maybe they have dementia and are not sure what to do with recycling, we can put an exemption for some people on the system so that no enforcement action is ever taken. But the great thing about the new service going forward with recycling is recycling isn't rejected unless it's really, really bad. Because if there's just the odd thing wrong in the wrong bag or wrong box, the crews will see it because they're hand sorting that on the vehicle as they put it in. They're looking at it. When you empty a big blue bin full of recycling, you can't see what's in there. You have a quick look at the top, and if it's contaminated, then that bin's got to be rejected because we don't know what else is in that bin. But with the recycling, the dry recycling, the public are getting educated every single time, because if something's either in there that shouldn't be in the recycling at all, it will be left behind in those bags for the residents, so they'll get that feedback on a regular basis. So I actually think it's probably easier for people to understand. And I also think sometimes with a commingled scheme that we've got now is people take a chance on what can go in there, because there's lots of things that can go in the blue bin, whereas they have to think a little bit harder about the separation element with the source segregated, and they tend to get it actually more right as well. So that's the two bits. With the trial, if we're talking about members wanting to get a bit more insight into how the system works, I mean, you've talked about, Tony and Graham have mentioned they both live in Conway, so they understand this and that, it works for them. We can look at that at some point, possibly a little bit too early now, but we could look at it for a while for members and set up a special collection system around for them. We are going to be actually moving some residents onto a source segregated service a little earlier than others. So the standard service will roll out in spring 2023, but we are looking at putting communal flats and a few other places, maybe some of our SAC grounds, that onto a source segregated service a little bit earlier, because there's capacity there for the amount that we'll collect to share the Conway Goffer recycling transfer station. So there could be an opportunity in the future for members to trial it a little bit sooner, and I think that would be really, really good actually, because all of the members, all of the ward members in the county are our advocates as well. So if you understand the system and you get it, and any concerns that you might have had hopefully will be alleviated through the trial, then it means that you're able to answer questions that your residents might have. So I think there's absolutely an opportunity, Tony, and we can look at that. It just won't be quite yet. It's more likely to be next year.
Chair, could I just come back in on that point, Tara?
Yeah, by all means.
Tara, what it was, I was just thinking pragmatically, if we had the stacking system, we can still empty them into the blue box. It just gives us a chance in the house to prepare, because obviously at the minute all of my recycling goes into a big bag in the house and then I have to carry it outside and I just tip it in. Whereas this time, obviously, I need to sort of work out whether I'm going to have a separate system in the house and then do it outside, or am I going to bring the boxes indoors? So I just think, even if we emptied everything into the blue bin as normal, it would still give us a chance to understand the system if we had the stacking boxes.
Okay, the stacking system is meant to be for outside storage, but obviously if people want to store it inside the house, they're welcome. I don't know if many residents would want to do that, maybe in a garage or something. But actually, yeah, if you just wanted the stacking system early to try it out, to be honest, for the amount of councillors that may want to become involved in the trial, the men would just empty that into the, I'd have to check with that it's safe to do so, but I think we could manage that ourselves and empty them into the wagon, as long as that's accepted that that's what we would be doing. But of course, it's also the only issue that we've got with that is that we have this is going to be a weekly service, so we only pass you on a fortnightly basis for recycling, so I still have to set up a separate round for that anyway. That's why I was thinking of tying it into one of the other pieces of work that we might do. But if you're thinking about a time limited period, we may be able to get hold of a source segregated vehicle and collect that and do something with it. So I'm happy to take it outside the meeting. I'm happy to work something up with you.
Thank you, Sarah. Brian, did you want to come back, or are you happy? You're on mute. So yeah, go on.
No, the noise in the background. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I'm quite happy with that. I'm just concerned for my elderly residents who are concerned about the changeover, if there was any, any mistakes that they made. And I'm happy with all the answers there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Rachel, did you want to come? Yeah, go on, Graham.
Sorry, I know Rachel will come in. Just that point around that Tara said, we'll take it away today around this trial for members, and we'll do that, and we'll organise that through Rhiannon, because it may be not all members of Scrutiny want to be on that trial, so we can find out which members of Scrutiny want to be on the trial and which won't. And I think it needs to be for a short period of time. It doesn't need to be for months. It's just to get an idea over perhaps a 2-week cycle of how it actually works practically. And I think that'll be really helpful for members to understand the practicalities of that. As Rachel said, do I mix it together in the kitchen and then take it outside, or do I try and separate it in the kitchen so I'm ready when I take it? Those little practical things might give you some further questions, or might give you some further comfort. So I think it is important. We'll take that offline. I can't give a commitment that we'll do it because I need to speak to Tara and to Tony. But what I would say as the corporate director, I think that's entirely logical. So I will press Tony and Tara to find a way of doing that. It'll be open to all Scrutiny members to participate, but it's voluntary. You wouldn't need to. So if 1 or 2 of you want to do it, that's fine. 5 or 6 you want to do it, that's fine. And it'll probably only be for a fortnight, short period of time, just to give you a feel for it. So we'll pick that up outside the meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Graham. Rachel, do you want to ask a question?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just a couple of questions. One was in the report, it said about switching to ultra low emission vehicles. I take it that meant electric. I know there are other means and the methods. And the other one was about a planned transition for residents in Denbighshire. Obviously, this is going to be sort of like us, councillors. If we have this trial, it gives us a chance to get our heads around everything. And what's the planned transition phase for the wider public, please?
There's quite a few elements to the project. So if we talk about the standard service, that's anyone that's going to be getting a black 240 wheel bin and a trolley box, weekly pickup of the trolley box, 4 weekly pickup of the black bin. So we will start to communicate with residents. There's a comms plan in one of the appendices that sort of like has some details around this, but we're working with RAP on a more detailed mobilisation of that actual service. So there's several elements. First of all, we have to swap their smaller black bin for a larger black bin where it's needed. Single person households might not need one, but families certainly be given the option of doing that. So that's one of the main things that we need to do first. We also have to launch our absorbent hygiene product service as well ahead of the service change. So anybody who wants that service has got it in place before the service goes to 4 weekly. So on the current timescales for the depot to be completed, it's looking like we'll probably start communicating with residents specifically about their service change at their property in the sort of early spring of 2023. They'll probably have the AHP service. They'll have to sign up to the service. There'll be a drop dead date where they have to sign up probably by the end of March, you know, and then that will be rolled out in, you know, the following month. Now, what we anticipate with the AHP service, although we will promote it and get as many people on it as need it, a lot of people won't sign up to it until the service change happens and they realise, actually, you know what, I could do with that service. So we'll have to have a second date as well. What we can't do is have lots of people joining all the way through the time, because we have to plan the routes and the rounds and things to make sure we can service it. So we'll probably have a second sign up date, and then once most people are signed up, it can be a subscribe whenever option as well. So that will happen in, you know, so black bins first probably, then AHP a month later, and then sort of from, you know, May, June into early summer, that will be when we do the main rollout and we swap people's blue bins for the trolley box for that. But as I alluded to earlier, we are looking at the communal properties. So if anyone that lives in a apartment block or whatever that's got a bin store with 4-wheel bins in, they are programmed at this moment, subject to getting the vehicle that we need in time, changing next autumn, and that will we're co-collecting the communal properties with our trade, our larger bin trade customers. The reason I want to roll that out earlier is because actually there's some legislation that's come out that says that businesses have to separate their waste, and we want to be the first operator in the Denbighshire area to be able to offer that source segregated service so that businesses can comply. The communal service will, you know, we've actually got our first communal trial in Bronnycrest in Denbigh starting very soon, actually. So some of our residents will be getting a source segregated service in 4-wheel bins in the next sort of 6 weeks or so.
Happy Rachel, the answer.
Yes, Chair, thank you. It's just about the vehicles. You were saying low transmission. Is that going to be electric, or are we looking at some other alternative?
The two options out there really. I mean, there's sort of greener diesel trucks, which we'll obviously look at where we can't do anything else. But what we're focusing on really is we've had a trial of an e-collect 26-ton RCV. So we will still have RCVs to collect garden waste and residual waste. So we'll be looking at as those vehicles come to the end of their life, sort of, you know, getting electric versions of those. Unfortunately, there's only one size available. It's a narrow body, so it doesn't quite have the payload. But we're just in discussions at the moment with Welsh Government, and also the carbon reduction budget has made provision to help buy these vehicles because they are more expensive, although the life cycle costs, you know, are fairly equivalent or even better. So I'm hoping to have one, if not two, by next year for RCVs. The main discussion we're having with Welsh Government at the moment is around the actual curbside sort vehicles that we're going to be buying to collect the source segregated waste. They lend themselves to electric quite well because they don't eat as much electricity because of the bin lift not constantly working, the compaction element not needed. So there are there's several trials across North Wales happening this year. Conway and Flintshire are two of them. There's some main suppliers that we will be looking at, and they've both got trials starting. The vehicles are due to be delivered late summer, so we'll be using that trial data to see how many electric vehicles we can actually be brave enough to order when we come to place our order in January. So there is an ambition. We don't know how many yet. We've got a separate support and project to look at our charging infrastructure. So we're going to have our own substation at the new depot in Denbigh with 500 kV, which will give us, you know, adequate capacity to charge quite a few vehicles. So subject to the trials, we know very little about the curbside sort vehicles at the moment. There's none out there at all. They're coming, and the manufacturers are still developing different sizes and things like that. So we won't be able to go all electric because we won't know enough about them, and they won't exist all the sizes that we need. But
Thank you,
we'll do.
Sarah. Thank you. Rachel Flynn, please. Oh, sorry, Rachel. Cheryl Williamson.
Thanks, Tara. I did take mine off, but I wouldn't mind being one of the trial members for these bins, because I'm concerned about the vulnerable residents as well, in that they may not be able to use those type of products. So I wanted to test the weight kind of things. That
If you let Rian know after the meeting, I'm sure we can go
Chair,
from there.
if I can just say what
Tony, yeah.
I'll speak to Tara after the meeting, and we'll get back to the committee fairly soon on what we think is possible on a proposal around a trial.
Thanks.
So we'll
Tony,
confirm that. Leave it with us.
Yeah, Graham Flynn. Sorry, Graham Timms. I'm getting it wrong today.
Just concentrating a little bit on an area that people haven't really talked about, well, two areas. The first one is the money, the cost of the system, and in 6.1 in the report it says, gives some details, but not quite enough, not for me anyway. If you work it out, I think it's just over 8 million that the county council will have to pay towards the new system, and $500,000 a year saving means that it's going to take 16 or 17 years to pay back. I just wondered if you could give a little bit more detail on that. Going through from that, I mentioned this last time you came to the Communities Scrutiny Committee, and that's about the saving, the $500,000 saving, because that includes presumably selling the the cleaner waste, if you like, the non-contaminated waste to recyclers. And I was asking about the effect of the price of plastic and paper for recycling, because obviously the more that comes onto the market, the lower the price will go. And also trends in the stuff that people are actually throwing away. Is the stuff that they're throwing away worth as much in the future as it is today? And if you could let us know about any indications of current trends. So that's the first bit. And the second bit is on the wellbeing assessment, because in the wellbeing assessment at the end, it mentions very often schools and students in schools, pupils, and how they can be, if you like, environmental champions. A lot of schools have eco councils, and they can be an ambassador in their own house when they go home, reaching a whole lot more people. I think we all suffer from not quite knowing exactly what to put in where. And the new one on me was grey and brown cardboard. I knew cardboard came in different colours, but there must be a further distinction to just whether it's grey or brown. And this sort of thing can easily be taught to school children, and then they can go home and they can be the experts, and people can be asking them. And young people are really interested in this sort of thing, and they do want to progress it, and I'm sure that they would be good ambassadors. But then when I looked at the communications plan, it didn't seem to have anything about schools and involving children, apart from one small bit which was mentioning eco schools. I'd like to see that expanded in more detail to show maybe preparation of a sorting exercise where they have a bin of nice clean waste and they sort it into the different piles in the classroom. Maybe that same exercise could go to a library or something like that where people could try it. Because, for example, when you get a prepared meal, one of these heat in the oven meals, you peel the film off. My understanding is that the film has to go in the non-recyclable, but the container usually has a little symbol on it to say it can be recycled. And it's all this sort of thing, that to get clean waste, you have to know what you're doing. And I think that all of us have slightly different understandings on that. So involving schools and the community in that. And my final question really is about frontline operatives. I was talking to the operatives in Llangollen Llangollen over the last week, and it's they were saying, yeah, these monitoring systems are fine, but they're the people that appear at the gate every week, and people sometimes, you know, people for all the wrong reasons we know, but people do go for the person that they can see. You know, it's not the traffic warden's fault, is it, that they've got to put a ticket on your car, but they're the person, people that get it. And when they know that their waste is being monitored, are they becoming more targets? And is there anything we can do to make sure that they don't become a target in that sort of way? Welcome back.
Can I start, Tara, on this, and then you can fill in any blanks that I've left out. There's quite a lot there, Graham. We'll try and get through all those questions. I think on the financial side of things, the minimum saving or cost reduction to the service of £500,000 includes the cost of the prudential borrowing. So it's after the cost of the prudential borrowing that the council needs to do to fund its element of the project. So that is all included in the calculation. So it's covered. And as I say, and it will be a minimum of £500,000. And you know, we are hopeful and confident that it may be more than that. But we can provide a more detailed breakdown of the financial calculations in relation to that to the committee, if that would be helpful. Yeah, the market for recyclables will inevitably have an impact on our business model, whatever collection service we have. And you're right, you know, we're making some assumptions in our financial model about the income that we will get from selling on the recyclable waste, and that is based on a market analysis of, you know, what is happening currently. But you're right, that can change, and therefore that if it changes, it will have an impact either positive or negative on our assumptions and therefore our financial model. However, the impact will be at least as great if we don't change the collection model, because what we've got at the moment is we have to pay to take our commingled recycling to a plant to be sorted. And if that recyclable waste, and they then market and sell on that waste, it's not the council that gets that income. So if the market changes for the recyclable waste, whoever sorts our commingled recycling will be charging us a lot more than they charge now for doing it. So it has an impact on both models. And actually, you know, and we've had lots of detailed discussions with RAP in relation to this, and we think that the new model actually protects us more from market changes than the existing model that we've got. And it's one of the reasons that we really want to do this, we really need to do this project, because the financial model for our existing service is not sustainable, and we feel that the new model will be. So I just wanted to say that. I'm going to probably pass you on to Tara to talk about.
Tony, Brian's itching to come in as well.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I was going to finish then anyway, Chair. But there you
Thanks.
Go. Yeah, thank you, Chair. And yeah, this comment will add on conveniently to what Tony said. My view.
I hear you. Sorry, Brian.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
You're very faint.
Yeah, it must be. Is that any better?
Yes.
Yeah, the point I wanted to make was, and it's my personal view, having lived with this new waste model development for 3 years, even if the cost saving was zero, my view is that this is the right thing to do because of the recycling aspect of this project. It's most definitely for me the right thing to do, even if it was a zero saving or no saving, if you like. It's the right thing to do. And in the big picture of Denbighshire County Council, what we've done as a council, on the climate change front. We've altered our constitution to have a regard for climate change. This is most definitely the right thing to do. And yes, the pounds, shillings and pence are important, but equally to recycle better and to do it better is the right thing to do. And that's the point I wanted to make, Chair.
Thank you, Brian. Tara, did you want to carry on?
Yes, absolutely. Just on the schools, I mentioned before about the early rollout of our trade service and our communal service. That will include all the schools that are our customers as well. So the schools will be getting this service before everyone else, and we'll be helping them set up internal recycling stations that are source segregated, so that the pupils will know what to do when the service actually hits the homes. And we have plans to I've got a back office restructure that I'm working up at the moment, and through the carbon reduction priorities, I've been in discussions with Helen Vaughan-Evans, and we have proposals for a waste prevention type role who will focus with council staff and school pupils on how to optimise recycling. So there will be some resource there. We do work with Catherine and Keep Well Tidy with the eco schools. We did have our first eco schools. Well, it was meant to be a conference that was going to happen in April last year, and of course COVID stopped that from happening, but the schools did enter. We had about nine schools enter that competition, and there's some great projects that schools are working on so we do want to incentivise them. And there is education packages being developed in the background because of the Park Adfer facility that we've got in Queen's Ferry that will be available, that will help pupils to understand what happens to those elements that are not recyclable as well. So that there is absolutely an intention to optimise the impact that our little recycling champions across the county, all our young people can have in this scheme. I'm an ex-teacher, so that's very much at the heart of the way that we operate, and we are setting up in this back office structure a behaviour change unit which will tie together education, engagement and enforcement in a really, really effective way. On the frontline operatives, the staff have always had to manage people who are upset because we maybe reject a bin because it's got the wrong items in it. So the blue bin rejections have been, it's a process that we've had for years. Most of the staff are very used to that. They know how to handle a member of the public who may be upset. They have the conflict management training when they need it. Some people are more comfortable with that than others. The crews are encouraged to carry cards that they can give to people, or leaflets they can give to people if people do approach them, and not to engage in lengthy conversations on the doorstep, because we actually haven't got the time to do that. We have a recycling advisory team that sit behind the service and support them. So we can actually, the in-cab technology that we're inputting will actually provide us with the details of people, of households that are not coping well or not complying, so we can go and visit them with the people who know how to have those more lengthy conversations. So it's part of their normal job. It always has been. They have confrontation with residents sometimes who put out extra bags and we don't take it. We've had a no way side policy the crews are used to enforcing. So this is not new. It's not new stuff for them.
Chair, can I just add very quickly that the point that Brian made, I think, is quite important, and I completely agree with Brian that this is the right thing to do, even if it was to save nothing, because of the environmental benefits that it will bring. However, I'm confident that we can deliver both. We can deliver those environmental benefits and the £500,000 savings. So that's a win-win as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, thank you. Graham wants to come back.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, on my first point about the finances of it, I think everybody that knows me will know full well that I agree with the lead member, and it is the right thing to do, and we should be doing it. However, also, alongside that, as councillors, I think we have a responsibility to keep our eye on what's being spent on behalf of our residents, and that's my concern really, just to know that the system is set up, and it's an easy figure, isn't it? You know, we're going to save 500k a year, and everyone's excited about it. Oh, good, we can save some money, but we need to know that that's going to continue, or what the future is of that fund, because it may well go down to less than that in the future. Pleased to hear about the possibility of someone working with schools. I mean, the other thing is videos, isn't it? I mean, little videos, social media videos and so on about how to actually recycle, where your recycling goes after it's put in the bin, and you know, to help people to look at things and know what's going on. So that's my thanks.
Diolch, Graham.
I've got 3 speakers, Councillor Mervyn Parry, Rick Davis and Alan James, and then we'll come to an end with this item.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. I'll just put my video off just so it's easier for you to understand. I think we need to be very positive about this change, because you know, we're right to scrutinise the change, but I think we need to be positive about it. There's some of the answers, I'm sure, or some of the questions, I'm sure, that possibly the services could find out across county, because if Conway have done rolled this out, I'm sure services could ask Conway whether how the problems have created and how they've been dealt with in Conway or other counties that used them. The benefits of the saving of 500,000 is obviously a big benefit to the county. Is the saving of this money identified to where it will go and what it will be spent on that saving of 500,000 or more, if Tony thinks he can make more for us? My other one, to agree with Graham Timms on spending the time with the schools, and I think the social media one, which I was going to bring up, I think is an excellent idea, because all these, you know, it reaches a lot of people, social media, and it's a fairly cheap way of delivering it. And possibly, Tara, with maybe the trials bit for community scrutiny members, possibly by the time we get everything set up, we might be meeting in person by then, and possibly you could maybe bring the boxes or something similar to us in a community scrutiny meeting and show us how the things work there, rather than having to deliver them out. And because there's a cost in doing what a trial is done, and possibly just having them and showing us how they will work would maybe help us to be able to tell our residents what we're actually seeing. Thank you, Chair. That's all I've got.
Can we keep the answers quite brief? I know we had a good discussion, but we have got a few more speakers put their hands up, and I'll allow Glenn Gwyneth after Meirig and Alan James, and that's it. No more. Thank you.
Okay. Just very briefly then, Chair, from my perspective, if I were, it's a good idea actually to do a demonstration in a meeting. If I'd have thought about it, I could have done one today, because I've got my recycling bin outside my back door. I could have done it via the Zoom, but the Conway, Mervyn, you're right, and we do actually talk quite closely with Conway about this. Obviously, they've done this before, and it's important that we learn from their experiences, and we are doing that. What the main headline really is that Conway had a lot of complaints prior to the rollout of their scheme, a lot of concerns, and actually once it was rolled out, it all kind of died away, because it worked pretty well for most people. So that's the main headline, actually, and we've talked to them about the dog waste issue, because I know that comes up a lot, and you know, they don't have issues in relation to that. They don't have a lot of complaints or people saying that that's a problem either. So I think that's positive, you know, that we can take some assurance from that. sorry, I can't remember what you said about the 500,000. It's yeah, that other than it was important that we. Oh, where was it going to go? Sorry, I remember the question now.
Yeah.
I can't. Obviously, Steve isn't here, and Steve would probably be the one who needs to confirm this. But my understanding is that Steve hasn't assumed this saving yet within the medium-term financial plan, because the project hasn't actually been delivered yet. I think that's the position. So it hasn't actually been incorporated. That saving hasn't been incorporated into the future financial plan, but it's clearly on there as one of our biggest schemes that will hopefully realise that saving. But I would have to check that with Steve to be 100% sure.
Thanks, Tony. Guy, siwr nesa ydi Mary Lloyd.
Next speaker, Councillor Mary Lloyd Davis. Thank you, Chair. Could I also say thank you for this very comprehensive report. This is those are the questions. Here are the questions. Tony Ward, I was under the impression in your presentation that the list of houses and streets who could use this arrangement in Appendix 3 is available to us. The second question, page 29, Appendix 2, Table 3. Is there a lid on the boxes to save from the rain with a hinge lid? And if not, why? And the third question, page 84, Appendix 7, assessments of the welfare of Section A, and in English it says justification for impact, and in Welsh, why isn't there a line stating in line with the Welsh language documents? And that is the Welsh language policy that we have. And fourthly, the cost of the change. Am I not right in saying that this is an arrangement by the Welsh government that's forced us to do this because they weren't keen on the old arrangement anyway? Thank you.
Okay. I'm not sure I actually got, or I'm not sure that I actually understood the first question, Merrick, so I might have to come back to that. The lid, yes, the trolley box system has got a lid on it with a hinge. It's a lockable lid, so it keeps everything together. That's the plan.
Merrick
Sorry,
showing us a picture.
I can't see. It's so small. I can't see it, Merrick.
What page, Merrick? Ti ar mute, sorry, Merrick. Merrick, ti ar mute. Ti ar mute.
I've been quite careful. Page 29, Appendix 2, Table 3.
Yeah, page 29, Table 3.
The three together. It's the other boxes I'm talking about.
Yeah, the three boxes on the trolley. No? Sorry.
Yes, there can be a lid. Yeah, you can get them with lids. That's fine. We would always provide some form of lid. Absolutely. Yeah.
Are they hinged because they get lost?
They're not hinged. They clip on. There's also an option of nets as well that can go on. I prefer lids. So I've got a lidded box in the county that I live in, and we'll obviously make sure they're as secure as they can be, and go from there. But yeah, we do need people to present it closed, otherwise
Graham Bose's bins getting collected as we speak, I think.
There we go. Going to the
Quite
last
right,
question.
Chair. Mine are actually getting collected now. If you look at the screen,
Yeah,
here it is, with a little trolley box going into.
Oh, there you go. We've got a live demonstration. How about that?
Courtesy of Conway Council. Not very heavy, very straightforward.
Have you planned this, Graham? By the way,
I haven't. I'm afraid.
There's a copyright on this, so.
Yeah, that's my food waste going in. It's all nicely done. It's well organised.
Was that the rabbit, Graham?
The rabbit's safe in the hutch, I hope. So it's just a really easy system. It really is. because it's done weekly. So you think, oh God, there's going to be loads, but you know, in the end, with plastic being reduced, you know, was an overflow bag, the blue one, because we do have a lot of plastic still, I'm afraid, with drinks and cans and things. So they give us a blue bag. That blue bag you see on the floor is the overflow, because the little caddy isn't big enough, and it's easily done, easily accommodated, very, very straightforward. And they come around once a week, and it's done. They do a really good job. So there you go, Chair.
Graham, can I ask a quick question while you're live? It was just about the wind. What do you do when there's really high winds? Because it's a big concern about residents.
Yeah, the trolley box has never blown over. So that trolley box, once it's full with the paper, the cardboard, the plastic, and the tins, doesn't blow over. The top lid's got a proper lock on it, so it doesn't open up and doesn't blow over. And I've never had any problems with that. The only problem can be the overflow, the blue one. And I jammed the green trolley box against my pillar there that you can see, and the blue bag with the overflow gets jammed against the pillar and the blue box and the green caddy, and I don't have any trouble. I mean, occasionally we get some, you know, in truth, occasionally some do get blown over, I think, up the street, and I have seen rubbish come down the road, but it's very, very seldom.
And what we would be
sorry to interrupt your
It's
meeting,
all right.
Chair, but it was just right outside my front door. I couldn't resist it.
Very impressed, Graham.
Yeah. What we would recommend people to do is not put the bin out, you know, the night before. Put it out in the morning if they can, particularly if it's very windy. You know, blue bins can blow over all the time if it's really, really windy. And that's why we ask people, you know, to try not to put them out the night before, particularly if it is very windy. But going back to Mary's questions, the Welsh government, nobody's being forced to do anything here. There is a Welsh government blueprint. Welsh government would like all local authorities to move to this system, but we're not being forced to do so. We approached Welsh government to ask them whether they would help us to do so, help us financially with this change, because it is such a big change, and they agreed to do that because it's their blueprint and they want us to do it. But we could have decided to stick with what we've got, but that wouldn't have been the right thing in my view. So there might have been another question, Mary, about the
Welsh language,
the well-being impact
in the assessment, yes.
Can you remind me what page you'd said it was on, Eric?
84.
84.
Atodiad 7.
So
87. Section A for Apple. And it says justification for impact. And I'm asking why when our own Welsh language documents cynlluniaeth mentioned, so that we are working to that, not just to nothing.
Okay, I'm struggling to see it at the moment. There's something different
Page
about the number.
83, I think, yeah, on the English.
Yeah, we are a Cymraeg.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 84 on the Welsh version, 83 in English.
I might have to come back to you on this, Merrick, when we've got more time to. I can't find the section.
Can we just freeze the meeting for a minute? We've just got an alarm message, I think.
It's a birdie question there.
Tony, if it helps, I think it's page 82 on the English one.
Page 82. Okay, sorry, it's a big document. So, page 82. Is that on the actual the number 82 of 116, Rhian, or is that the 82 that it says on the actual bottom of the page numbers? Because
bottom of the page. 82.
Bottom of the page.
Bottom of the page 82. Okay, I've got the right page.
Right.
Right. So so we're looking at the bottom of that page about the promoting the Welsh language. Is that right?
Yeah, justification for impact.
That's the one.
Okay. And sorry, what was the question again?
Adding on the end, in line with the Welsh language document that we have in Denbighshire.
Okay. I'm absolutely sure that can be added in. This impact assessment is a live document, and is reviewed regularly and updated. So yeah, there's no problem with that. Yeah.
Thank you. Mary, ti'n hapus popeth?
Are you happy? Yes, thanks very much.
You're mute, Alan.
Oh, right. Sorry, Chair. I
No,
didn't
you're
hear
not.
you
No, sorry.
I didn't hear you call me in. Thank you, Chair, for allowing me to quickly speak. First of all, can I start off with an apology to Tara? Joan Butterfield and I represent the West End of Rhyl. We were due to meet on Tuesday afternoon, and for some reason, I certainly couldn't get into the meeting. So I apologise, Tara, for that. It kept telling me that I was being people were waiting to let me in, but it never happened. So if it did go ahead, we're sorry about that. Joan and I have got no problem with any of this. It's a really good project, and we're very positive about the situation, particularly the West End, where we do have some serious issues about waste collection and so on. So we're looking forward to how this will work and how the trial will go ahead. Joan gave me a couple of questions to ask on Tuesday, and if I may, they are relevant. But if you decide, Hugh, that they're not relevant, then just do what you normally do and whatever. Okay. Joan asked about, and we do get problems around the county with landlords or tenants throwing stuff, usually furniture and stuff, out into the front yard and so on. Are we in a position now where we can charge when people dump stuff? We as an organisation charge the landlord or the tenants, particularly if tenants have left all their rubbish. So are tenants responsible for that? The second part of that is, do landlords know that we have a charging policy for collecting things like furniture and that sort of stuff? And the third question, has it been to the landlords forum? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Answer the last one first, I think. So we do, whenever there's a landlords forum, in the last year or two, we have been to them, and we have presented the waste model and our plans in as much detail as we had at that time. I don't think there's been one for a little while now. We are actively trying to engage with the key landlords in West Rhyl in particular. So we've got some positive inroads with Scaffingtons and Clwyd Allen, who are the majority of the sort of hotspot areas where we've got problems with non-compliance or with the space restrictions that cause difficulties. So part of the West Rhyl action plan, which I shared with yourself and John ahead of our meeting, was, sort of to give the detail behind how we were going to do that. There is a landlord licensing scheme for certain properties, and there are now, in the revision of that licensing scheme, there are additional requirements around the waste collection service. So that makes sure that landlords have got to make sure that the residents have got the right recycling and waste containers in the property when they get there. It's their responsibility to do that. And if they don't, then we have some comeback through that licensing scheme. We can't enforce that on private landlords if they're not in that scheme. It's the resident's responsibility. So definitely, to make the sort of improvements we're looking at in West Rhyl, it's about changing the infrastructure. It's about recognising the unique issues that it's got, and it's also about being realistic, and putting these, the longer term working arrangements in with landlords, because they're the ones that know the tenants much better and have to interact. So there's lots of things going on there. More than happy to rearrange the meeting. I think I had some issues as well, which might not have helped. So I think between us all, we just didn't get to meet. So I'll catch up with you and Joan outside the meeting through the more details of that plan. So yeah.
Thanks, Sarah. Alan, happy?
Yeah, thanks very much, and thanks, Tara, for that. Yeah, we'll catch up. Thanks.
Next. Sorry.
Thanks. Can I just tell you, Chair, that I'm now leaving the meeting. I've got another meeting, so just to let you know that it's been a very good meeting, and I'm really pleased to you allowed me to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Glenn and wedyn Gwyneth. Diolch.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I too, support this. It's anything that changes, there's going to be anxiety and there's going to be teething troubles, and I'm sure we'll sort all those out. Tony's probably, because he mentioned this before, there's a high pressure gas pipeline that runs down the Glyg Road, which is where the new waste recycling plant in Denby is going to be. Do you think there will be any impact on the building of the plant, but also secondary is the traffic using that top road in the future once it is built? Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Glenn. No, the issue has been dealt with in terms of the depot. It was something that was identified very early on, that there was the gas main running through across the site, and we've dealt with that with a suitable concrete base, which means that we're able to proceed with it. So it's not an issue. It's it's been dealt with, and it's been one of the things that the design team has worked very hard to overcome.
Can I just
traffic?
Yeah, the traffic. Thank you.
Yeah, no, we won't have an impact on that. The only thing is, and you know, it kind of goes on to a different discussion and goes into the one we were having at the Denby Mag meeting about the Glyg Road. That, you know, that main runs across the whole length of that road, and it's causing us a few problems in terms of what we wanted to do in terms of widening that road and resurfacing it. But again, that's a challenge we're currently having to work with and overcome. But it won't cause any issues in terms of the operation of the depot. It's just something from a highways perspective, you know, we'd like to be able to, we prefer if it wasn't there.
Thank you, Tony. Happy, Glenn? Thank you. Gwyneth, Sohla?
Diolch yn fawr iawn. Graham was mentioning putting presumably kitten litter into plastic bags. Are we providing biodegradable bags? And for example, are the green bags used for dog poo, are they biodegradable? That's one. Secondly, schools in Denbighshire. I'm not sure of the current situation, but I do know that in the past, many schools prefer to go to a different operator or different company rather than use the council facilities for disposal of waste and recycling. And charities, at the moment, they are treated the same as businesses. Would there be a possibility of looking at charities and perhaps giving them a cheaper price? And there will be assistance, I take it, as there is now, for those who need assistance, those who are frail or physically unable to move. Diolch.
Tony, Tara.
Do you want to start on that, Tara?
Yeah, the assistance, we have an assisted collections list. We are in the process of refreshing that and revising it to make sure it's up to date, so we don't miss anybody out when we change the system and rounds change and things in a couple of years' time. So that will actually continue as well. The schools, we do actually service the majority of schools in the county, but not all, you're correct. So some choose to go to another operator for whatever reason. It could often sometimes be price. Some of the operators that offer a service, and we've got some good operators in the county, but there are a few that, you know, where the waste is going is not as environmentally, you know, beneficial as perhaps our collection. Our residual waste goes to Park Adver. It's a brand new energy from waste facility. It manages emissions and gets the best value out of that calorific value of the waste. Whereas some of our competitors, most are not landfilling now, but some are using less environmentally friendly treatment facilities. So it is part of the work of the carbon reduction team working with us in the future to highlight all the benefits of using our service. We will, as I said earlier, probably be the first operator, private or otherwise, in Denbighshire to offer a source segregated recycling service, which is actually the law now, businesses are meant to separate certain materials, yet the private sector is still offering schools and businesses a one collection of residual waste with no recycling whatsoever and saying, we'll sort it, you just give it all to us. And that is not compliant, legally compliant, and it's not the right thing to do for the environment. So we will be in a position moving forward to have the most environmentally friendly offer. There may be a small price attached to that, but we will obviously, we're not here to profiteer from our businesses or schools. We make a marginal profit on our service overall. The trade waste review done recently, that margin is around about sort of 12%. 12 to 16 depending on which service, which should be expected, and that helps to offset the other things that we do. The biodegradable bags, we haven't actually replenished we have given away previously across the council poo bags, and they have in the past been plastic, not biodegradable. We haven't actually bought any for quite some time because large stocks were ordered several years ago. And I don't think we haven't really looked at that again. It's not something, as a service, we won't be providing poo bags and cat litter bags for householders. That is their responsibility as animal owners to do that. But if we ever need to buy poo bags again that we give out as part of our enforcement activities and education activities, then we will be looking at a biodegradable option. And of course, our food waste green bags are biodegradable. Well, they're actually compostable.
Give him a little bit of food. It's rusty.
Sorry?
I think it was a bit of background noise, Sarah.
Okay, apologies. Did you all hear that?
That was my husband.
Yeah, ti'n hapus efo ateb?
I didn't answer the charity question. No, that is a potentially a contentious question, because the charitable sector do feel that we should be offering certain services at reduced rates. So it does depend on the charity. It depends on their function, as to whether or not they perceive themselves to be entitled to free collections. But what we've got to understand is that our service is predominantly a household service, and it will be a cost to the council if we change our current policy on that. It's something that we are looking at as part of our procurement for our household waste recycling centres, because we're doing a joint procurement with Conway. Our policies are slightly different, so we'll be looking at it to see what access we should or would want to afford to some charitable businesses. And we work really closely with co-options, and we've also recently supported charities through a circular economy bid, where any charities with charity shops on our high streets across Denbighshire were able to benefit from some external funding that we secured for them to make shop improvements and things like that. So we do work with the charitable sector wherever we can and support them, but what we don't want to do is introduce a policy that financial burden onto the council that it can't afford. So we have to be careful and get that right.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to have this.
Yeah, Can I just ask one more?
Thank you.
Do you have separate disposal of mercury, or would that be in the centres?
Can you hear me? Yeah. Mercury. Wow, I've never been asked for that one before. Obviously, it's a hazardous material on its own, so it's certainly not something we would ever pick up on the curbside, because it's not a stable enough material. I have honestly never been asked that question, so I wouldn't know. I know somebody in my team that can answer you, so I'll make sure they get back to you as to whether we accept that in a certain way. And obviously, we wouldn't accept liquid mercury, but it's not a household material in general.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. Just before Graham goes to the summer, can I just put one statement request in that we speak to the MSs, the MPs, because I know when Conway went over to the 4 weekly, there was a big kick-off by most of them, really. So if they're informed of what's going on to the T, there's no backlash, and just keeping people happy for tweeting silly things. Graham, can I hand you over? I know you've got one question and then you're going to sum up.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say about adding in another recommendation to those that are on the list, because Tony offered to send an update on the finance to the committee. I don't know what that would be. That would just be circulated, I think, if that's okay. So shall I go ahead with the recommendations? Yeah, the recommendations on page 9. The first one we've done already because we've commented on the progress. The second one, that members endorse the benefits realisation plan, Appendix 2, and request that the head of highways, facilities and environmental services track the achievement of the benefits through the annual service plan from 2023-2024 onwards. And we should cross out the word facilities on that, I think, bearing in mind yesterday's email. Likewise, on the third recommendation, that the head of highways, facilities and environmental services bring the future report to the community's Scrutiny Committee on the pilot project in West Rill, using microchips and in waste containers and Bronner Crest commute bin service charge. And the fourth one, that members confirm that they've read, understood the wellbeing impact assessment, Appendix 7, as part of their consideration. And the final one, that we get an update on the finance situation from the head of highways and environmental services.
Do I have a proposer? Proposer, anybody? Mervyn Parry, seconder?
Peter Scott.
Peter Scott, thank you. Everybody in favour? Anybody against? Nobody against. That's great. Thank you. Can I thank everybody who's delivered that this morning? It was a good discussion and seems to have got some answers, and hopefully look forward to going forward. Can I go on to agenda item number 7? Rianne, can you take this, please?
Yes, this is your usual work programme. Just a few points to draw your attention to. On page 103 in Appendix 1, you'll see the committee's work programme as it stands at the moment. And in paragraph 4.8, I mentioned there 2 reports to do with flooding that you were supposed to discussed today at this meeting, but we had a request from officers on behalf of National Resources Wales when it was requesting for these to be postponed. One is to do with an inquiry into the February 2020 floods. It says 2021 in the report, but it should be 2020, and that's the report from them now is now to come in July rather than this month. So they're supposed to be on track to bring that to you in July. And then the second one to do with rail cut and Prestatyn gutter. The work has been affected by COVID, but we're hoping that they'll be able to bring it now in September to this committee. The chair did agree to move these items to those dates. And then at the last meeting of the chairs and vice chairs group, the scrutiny vice chairs on the 29th of April, they did agree for this committee to consider 2 reports. One is to do with feedback that's been received to a council house tenants feedback. That's on your work programme for the 1st of July. And also a report, the results of the inquiry into floods in the county in January 2021. And they're hoping to bring that to you in October this year. It was mentioned in the report this morning about the task and finish group regarding to gypsies and travellers, and that study, that there may be a need to arrange a special meeting of this group in July to accept the report of the group. Unfortunately, because your meeting is on the 1st of July, that's going to be too soon for them to bring the reports to you. So we may be looking for a date nearer towards the end of the month before the break in August for you to accept that report. I'll have more information hopefully next month as to when that will be held. And one other thing, we look at when we can bring these reports on waste back to you later on. I'll speak to Tara and Tony about that. And one thing that was discussed in the chairs and vice chairs group was we used to have meetings, didn't we, to discuss issues that would be coming up in the meeting exactly before the meeting, before COVID. But because we're having these meetings now virtually, it's not quite as easy to do that as things stand. And what was decided by the vice chairs and vice groups was, if you feel that there's a need to have a discussion, to draw your questions up before a meeting, if you could ask one or two of them, and we could make arrangements and decide whether it would be beneficial to hold another meeting. The problem is, because some are here in the chamber, some people are here early setting the place up, that meeting would have to be taken place, be held in other rooms, and have breaks between one meeting and the other to get people in on time. So it would mean having a short meeting maybe at 9 o'clock, finishing at 9:30, so that we're ready to start by 10. I hope that makes sense to you. I think we're happy to take that meeting before the recess as well. It's difficult. There's no point taking something to scrutiny if we haven't prepared. That's why we're pushing things back. Thank you, Ria. Okay, that's it. So number 8 on
committee representatives. I met with the flood group. That's ongoing. We want one meeting. We've got another meeting planned to go on. Everybody's around the table, and it seems to be very positive so far. A lot of work to do, but great. Any more feedback? No, all quiet. So if that's the case, can I bring the meeting to an end? And can I thank all the members of staff here today, the translator, and thank you all for being so patient, and see you next time. Thank you very much. Bye.